for joining me this week on Evolve. I am your host, Monette Brann-Natta, and this week we're going to jump right into it. If you joined us last week, we spoke about applying practical tip number 1 to your life, which was all about affirmations and the energetic vibration needed to give them momentum. Now we are going to be talking to ourselves. We've started talking to ourselves. I just want to make sure that we ensure that we're listening to what we're saying, which brings us to practical tip number 2, listening to the still small voice and taking the leap of faith. Today we have a guest that has applied practical tip number 2 in a masterful way in his life and in the life of his family. Have you ever had one of those moments where your energy is pulled to someone in the room? I mean, you don't know this person, but instinctively you connect. That's what happened when I met Scott and his husband, Timmy. We were at a charity dinner, and as synchronicity and our angels would have it, we ended up seated right next to each other. And under the low din of our fellow attendees trying to locate their tables and be seated, we struck up a conversation and spent most of the evening exchanging ideas and genuinely enjoying each other's company. This man is wise, he is welcoming, and he is fun. Scott spends one part of his days helping people shore up their lives as an insurance agent with one of the nation's top companies. He spends another part of his life as a coach, a life coach, with a special gifting for teens and families. And as a Cancer son, he utilizes his deep well of intuition to help shift the energies of his clientele. He is a spiritual student and a teacher, but most importantly, he's a kindred spirit. Before we get him on here, I want to share with you a quote that Scott said to me last time we spoke. And I don't know who it's by, so I'll have him clarify that when he's on. But he said, "Miracles happen when you make up your mind." And Scott and his family have certainly made up their mind. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Scott. And Scott, I'm so excited to have you on with me today.
I am very excited. Thank you so much, Monette.
You're welcome. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about how you made this transition, because I find that when people understand how to do it and how other people have done it, sometimes seeing something done or hearing about it done makes your transition into what you need to do a lot easier. So let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Before you heard the still small voice, what was your life like?
Well, actually, we had a great life. I mean, we still have a great life. We had a beautiful, brand new 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom home at the lake. We had great jobs. We made the money that we needed to live a comfortable life. And I had, my family was there. Timmy's family was there. We just had a great life. We were able to do what we wanted to do, and we just lived a great life of abundance. If we wanted to take a boat out for a ride on the lake, we would just get a cooler of drinks and we would just take the boat out on the lake and just do what we wanted to do.
Okay, so you were coming from a place that was really good. And this is an interesting point to me, because a lot of times we hear about, especially if you study Abraham Hicks, we hear about contrast, right, Scott? I mean, sometimes things are uncomfortable. And so that's why we know we need to shift. But I really love your story for this particular reason, because things weren't so bad with the 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. It wasn't so bad with the boat and the lake and the drinks and friends and family around. So I find it fascinating that you still heard a voice that said you needed to shift, because a lot of people would have been really complacent and resting on their laurels and saying, this is pretty good. We don't have it so bad. So how did that voice come to you, Scott? How did you hear you needed to shift? And how did you know that you weren't crazy because you're leaving this amazing life that you had? What was happening in your heart when you started to get that feeling?
Well, so many times I would just be just in my everyday get up, go to work routine that normal Americans do every day. Get off of work, stop by the grocery store, grab something to eat, just everyday routine. But when I would do this routine, we would go through this routine. We always felt like something was missing, that there was more to what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Yes, I was fulfilling, a good career and a great home, but there was always that little desire in there that there's more to what I'm doing. There's more to me. There's more to what I was doing. And I just kept thinking, well, is that right? Is that just my flesh being like, oh, I want to go party at the beach for the rest of my life, or do I want to stay in my comfort zone?
Right.
Where I know that, I've got this paycheck coming in every Friday. I know that I've got this to come home to every day. But I kept thinking there's more to this than what I'm experiencing. So that still small voice was, there's more to it, more to me that I wanted to expand. But seeing where I was at, I was like, yeah, this is great, this is comfortable, but I'm not being able to expand who I want to be inside, and being able to do what I wanted to do to make me happy. And so that's kind of what prompted me, was just every day I would look around, and through my meditation, because I have daily meditation, and through that I was starting to feel like there was something more than for me to create than what I'd already created.
Right. So it was this feeling of more is out there for me. This is good. Where I am is good, but there can be more. And I love that desire, that wanting again, that is placed in us to get us to move forward. So I believe that when you're envisioning an idea and you have a spouse like you do with Mr. Timmy, that the significant person in your life will hear that too. So what was your experience with Timmy? I mean, did he know when you did? Was he like, no, sir, you can go ahead, I'm fine right here? And what was his intuition on it?
Well, I had mentioned Florida a few months earlier prior to this. Some opportunities were arising in Florida, and I was just like, I'd mentioned it to him. He didn't say much. And so I just kind of let it go, for the simple fact that I love Timmy dearly. He loves his comfort zone, and family is there.
Right.
And so he never really said much about it. So I thought, I should probably just let this idea go down the drain, because I don't want to take him out of his comfort zone. I don't want him to, we at the time, we weren't on the same wavelength. We weren't sharing the same vibration, and I could sense that, so I knew not to push the issue. And so I just let it go, and I just put it in the hands of the universe. I made that request known to the universe that, yes, I would like to go, but to make my family work, we all had to be in agreement. And I believe that to have a healthy family, you need to be on the same vibrational length to be able to make those decisions. Well, we were sitting in Taco Bell for lunch one day, and
good old Taco Bell.
he was being really quiet that day, and mind you, several weeks had gone by since I had mentioned it. And the atmosphere in there just wasn't that great. It was noisy, and it wasn't the cleanest place I'd ever been in. I've been in better ones. But anyway, I asked him, I said, what's wrong? You've been really quiet. And I thought, normally when he's that way, I know something's going on. And he goes, do you ever feel like we just don't belong? And that was his way of it. That was his way of expressing he was ready to make the change.
Right.
And me thinking that it was so loud in there that I was like, okay, well, we can take our lunch and we could go eat in the car, or, I'm not on that wavelength at the time. And I'm thinking, well, we can go eat in the car, or if you don't want this, we can throw it out and we can go down the road and get something else. And that's what I told him. And he goes, no, where we are. He goes, do you feel like that it's time that we do something different? And I was like, I've just been waiting on you to speak the word. I said, we will make it happen. And so sometimes it may not be in our timing, but when we make our request known to the universe, that like I like to put it, we make our request known. That's our part. Then number 2 is not our part. Our part is to wait and let that work take place.
That's so good.
And then part 3 is our part to listen for that direction. And so I had put it out there several weeks before,
right,
and then just let it go. Right. And I didn't. It really wasn't a focus. But then when I started hearing, and then all of a sudden Timmy started hearing that it was time to make this change, then that's when things started happening. I said, if you want to go, we'll go. We'll make this happen. Let's set a date and make it happen. And we set a date, and I was like, that's too far out. Let's move it up a couple weeks.
Okay.
So, we set a date, and we're like, we're going to make this happen. And that afternoon, we started doing the research and started the process.
Okay, I want to go back into something you said there that I thought was very pivotal for people. You heard it, and you put the request out to the universe, and you said, okay, guys, this is what I need. This is what I'm wanting. This is where I'm wanting to shift. You heard the still small voice. And Timmy was very happy where he was and hadn't heard it yet. And I love what you did here, Scott, which was an exercise in grace and a lesson in marriage to us all, is you didn't force this issue to your partner. You waited until he was in an energetic vibration and resonance with you, which you knew would happen if the thing you were wanting was right for the family, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. I just really want everybody to get that, because sometimes we have an idea and we really want to move forward with that idea. And I'm reminded a little bit too about a story that we both heard at the charity dinner. We were at the Nana's House charity dinner, and Kim, the founder of Nana's House, had a dream similar to your dream. Her dream was different, but in regards to, she wanted to open a children's shelter, and she didn't know how to start doing that. And she just took these small steps, but she first heard it, and she told her husband, and her husband had just opened a business, and her husband said, you know what? I don't hear that. You know what I mean, Scott? So she wasn't in resonance, but what happened was the universe worked and brought her husband into alignment with her, and now they are thriving. So this is, again, another lesson in how we can conduct ourselves in any relationship, whether you're married or not. You sometimes will hear things and your spouse may look at you with a side eye, and that's okay. Right. Because if it's right, and if it's pure, and if it's true for what the vision of your family is, and for your family, Scott, you are certainly the vision bearer, okay? But if it's right and true, God's going to bring it all together. The universe is going to make it work itself out. So I love that you waited and were patient with Timmy until he heard it authentically in his spirit and in his gut as well. During this whole time, were there moments, I have to ask you though, in the process when you doubted that Florida would become a reality, that this was really the right place for you?
It was one specific. There weren't any that were major, except the one specific area was we had never been to Florida. I had never even set foot in Florida. We were trying to lease our place sight unseen. We were doing all of this via email, telephone calls, internet. And so to put this in a nutshell, I had contacted the place where we actually live right now, and there were several offers that were out there. And just to bring it back to what you said earlier, miracles happen when you make up your mind.
Yes.
And so that was actually a quote from the late Reverend Ike, by the way.
Okay,
if you ever get a chance to look him up on YouTube, amazing man and speaker. He will bless your heart. But bringing that up, miracles happen when you make up your mind. And so long story short is we actually have looked at several places. And in the process of looking at several places, this place came available. And I thought, well, I don't want to put several applications out there.